Hey, it's Miss Flores. So today we are going to be talking about how to actually make graphs using a rule. So right before spring break, we had learned about the different rules with graphing, looked at how to determine a rule from a graph, but now we have the rule and we're going to make the graph. So let's take a look at our problem. So it says an airport taxi uses the rule F equals M plus 2 to calculate the fare for passengers. The number of miles, M, is the input, and the output is the fare, F, in dollars. We're going to graph that pattern. So first off, what we need to do is we need to label our horizontal number line, so the one going side to side at the bottom, to show that our input is the number of miles, right? It says M miles was our input. So we're going to write miles down there. And then our vertical number line, which is going to be our output, is going to be the fare. So fare would be like how much it costs. And now we can start writing our number pairs and graph it. So for a trip that is 2 miles, let's look at our rule. Our rule was F is equal to M plus 2. So whatever M is, I could basically pick a number from my number of miles, add 2 to it, and that would be the cost, right? So for a trip that is 2 miles, that would be 2 miles plus 2 would equal $4, right? So for a trip that is 2 miles, the fare would be $4. Since 2 was my input, 4 was my output, my number pair would be 2, 4. When we were talking about our number pairs before spring break, we said we go over the first number, the number on the left, and we go up the second number. So you'd go over 2, up 4, and we land here. So over 2, then up 4. So at 2 miles, you have a fare, which was dollars, a fare of $4. So we moved to the right 2 units, and then we moved up 4 units to represent our number pair. So we can graph several number pairs because a graph isn't just one point. A graph is multiple points, right? So we can come up with, using our rule, we can come up with more miles, right? So let's try it. So since our rule was F was equal to M plus 2, let's say that we are going to try 3 miles. So our input would be 3 miles. So that would be 3 plus 2. Well, 3 plus 2 is 5. So that means we would move to the right 3 units and then up 5 units. So we would go over 3 right here, then go up 5. And we land right here. Let's say we were going with 4 miles for M. So it'd be 4 plus 2. Well, 4 plus 2 is 6. So we would move to the right 4 units. We would move up 6 units, and we'd end up with a number pair of 4, 6. So we go to the right 4, then we go up 6. We land right here. Let's try one more. So let's say we plug in 3 for M, so 3 miles. So we would do, or wait, we just did 3. I'm sorry. Let's say we do 5. So we're trying to find the fare for 5 miles. So we'd have 5 for M plus 2. Well, 5 plus 2 is 7. So we would move to the right 5 units, move up 7 units, and we'd end up with our number pair of 5, 7. So our input is 5, our output is 7. So we would go over to the right 5 units, and then we would go up 7. So we end up with our point right here. So that would be our graph. If we wanted to connect the lines, we could. It would be like that. And that would be our graph. Let's try another problem. So now, let's graph a multiplicative pattern. So before we were doing additive because we were adding 2 each time, right? So now, let's say we have that Selena is counting the number of wheels on tricycles. The rule is W is equal to 3T, so 3 times T, where T is the number of tricycles and W is the number of wheels. We're going to use that rule to show the pattern on the graph. All right, now we need to label our graph first with our input and output. So since t was in our problem, remember our rule is output is equal to input and then whatever's happening to it, right? So w would be our output, right? So our vertical line is the output, and that's going to show the number of wheels because that's what it's equal to. The t is tricycles, and that's going to be our input. So we would have tricycles be our input, and wheels would be our output. And so now let's write a number pair and graph it. So our input, looking at our rule, w is equal to 3 times t. So our input is t times 3 is equal to our output of w. So I could basically pick any number and figure out what our number pair is. So let's say if our input is 1, we would do 1 and then times 3 to get our output. So 1 times 3 is 3. So we'd end up with 1, 3. So we would go over 1, up 3, and land right here. So whatever our input is, since our rule is 3 times t, 3 times our input, it's going to be whatever our input is times 3, that gets us our output. So let's try with inputs of 2, 3, and 4. So remember, our rule is output is equal to 3 times whatever our number of tricycles is, right? So if our input was 2, we would do 2 times 3. Well, 2 times 3 is 6. So we would go 2 units to the right and 6 units up. So we'd go over 2, go up 6. We end up right here. If we did 3, we would go, our output is equal to 3 times our input, which is 3. So 3 times 3, that is 9. So we'd move to the right 3 units, and then we move up 9 units. So we're going to go over 3, up 9, right here. And then same thing for 4. If our input is 4, our output is equal to 3 times our input. So 3 times 4 is 12. So that means that 4 would be our input and 12 would be our output. So we would move to the right 4, and then we would move up 12. So we go over 4, up 12. And that would be our graph. If we wanted to draw a line through it, we could just draw a line through, just like that. Looks kind of like a roller coaster. Let's try 2 more. So we're going to just graph the rule. So each doll needs 2 shoes. The rule is S is equal to 2 times D, where D is the number of dolls and S is the number of shoes. So let's graph it. First, we need to figure out what is our input, what is our output. So remember, all of our rules is output is equal to our input, and then plus or minus something, or plus or times something, my bad. Plus or times something in this case. All right, so our output is what it's equal to, and our input is what is being done to it. So if our rule is S is equal to 2D, that means S would be our output, and D would be our input, because D is what's actually in the problem. S is what it's equal to. So in this case, D stands for dolls, so dolls would go on our horizontal line at the bottom, and S is shoes, which would be our output on the vertical shoes. There we go. All right, so now our rule is equal to S is equal to 2D. So let's start picking some numbers. So we could always just write our numbers on the side. And let's try doing 3 number pairs. So we're going to make 3 number pairs. So let's say we'll start with our input of 1, 2, and 3. So if our rule is equal to S is equal to 2D, that means it's 1 times 2 gets us our output. 2 times 2 gets us our output. 3 times 2 gets us our output. Well, 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And 3 times 2 is 6. So these would be our number pairs. 1, 2, 2, 4, and 3, 6. So let's graph them. So our first one is 1, 2. So we go over 1, up 2. Right there. Our next one is 2, 4. So we go over 2, up 4. And then our last one would be 3, 6. So we go over 3, up 6. So that means 1 doll has 2 shoes. 2 dolls has 4 shoes. And 3 dolls would have 6 shoes all together. And you could keep going if you wanted to. But we're going to only do 3 number patterns. That's enough in order for us to get the idea. All right, let's try our last one. The score for guessing the correct word is 4 and the number of letters in the word. The rule is S is equal to 4 plus L, where L is the number of letters and S is the score. All right, let's figure out what our input and output is. Well, it's equal to our score, right? So S, which is our score, would be our output. And L, which is in the problem, would be our input, right? So since our input goes on the bottom line, our horizontal line, letters is going to be our input, and their output would be S, which is score. All right, so our rule is S is equal to 4 plus L. So I basically take whatever my letters are, add 4 to it, that gives us our score. So let's come up with at least 3 number pairs using that rule. So let's start picking some numbers. Well, let's try 3, 4, 5 in this case. We'll do our input of 3, an input of 4, and an input of 5. Well, since our rule was score is equal to 4 plus L, I basically take whatever my number of letters are, add 4 to it, that gives us our output. So 3 plus 4 gets us our output. 4 plus 4 gets us our output. 5 plus 4 gets us our output. Well, 3 plus 4 is 7. 4 plus 4 is 8. And 5 plus 4 is 9. So now I've got the number pairs 3, 7, 4, 8, and 5, 9. So I would go over 3 and then up 7 to graph my first point. For 4, I could go over 4, up 8, graph my second point. And for 5, I go over 5 letters, go up, get a score of 9. So that means 3 letters would have a score of 7, 4 letters would have a score of 8, and 5 letters would have a score of 9. And that is how we graph. We always have to remember to go up and over. We're going to have a few slides of practice for our assignment for today, and we will go over it at our meeting later on today. Have a great day, guys. Bye.